Three episodes.
Nice.
Welcome back to the podcast.
First one without the beard.
We are really elevating our game.
Yeah.
Neither one of us has any facial hair.
Yeah.
We're starting a new program. We're in a strength phase.
Yeah.
Your
Strength
favorite.
power. Yes, it suits me.
What do you think the tenets are for a really proper 4 to 6 week long strength training phase?
The biggest tenets are obviously weights should probably increase on the bar. So I'm a big fan of like linear periodizations on strength phases more than volume phases.
Have you had more success with a particular strategy in your past experience for a strength phase?
Yeah, I mean, if really like trying to build like maximal or even relative strength is kind of the goal, I like to be a little bit conservative in the first weeks and like really push the performance in the last weeks where the weights tend to be the heaviest and the reps tend to be the lowest.
You ever do Wendler's 5-3-1?
I have, yeah.
I feel like that is like the tried and true standard strength training program, like the one that everybody kind of starts off with.
Yeah, I think it's a great beginner program because it just sets a structure that allows you to succeed. And it does, I mean, following like what I said earlier, it really does follow this idea of like being a little bit more conservative, having a lot in the tank, and then when it finally gets to be like go time, like it's easy to nail it and have like success and really see progress. And I think that's why it's so popular.
Yeah, and it just teaches you the basic tenets of like reps and intensity, and you experience it in a very simple way. It makes sense, and you can practice at that rep range, and you learn like how you can progress, and you see the value of like decreasing your reps, when you get into that focused state.
Yeah, and it doesn't allow for a ton of bad reps, which I'm a big fan.
Right. The volume's really low on a 5-3-1. You're not doing a ton of reps.
No, but it's not so close to the line that like your reps are going to be crappy.
Right.
The longer I'm training, the more training experience I have, the less tolerance or really desire for crappy reps.
How has your strength training mentality changed as you've aged?
I mean, it's probably not just age, it's probably a lot of factors, but the biggest one is probably I just don't put the same importance on it that I used to. I mean, I would like really like think about it, like sleepless nights over numbers and what I was doing and how it was going, and that it just doesn't occupy my mind, and that's it.
Do you still feel like you're getting stronger?
Yeah, in certain ways, for sure. In certain things, yes. In certain things, no. Things that I've never been that good at, my strength levels are not as good as they used to be. Like I've never been a good squatter, and that's not getting any better. Like like that thing, for me to get better at the squat just took a lot of diligence, and now that I don't have a lot of diligence, it's definitely not going in the right direction.
When you started strength training, did you see like big jumps in the numbers? Like when you started squatting in particular, like did you start squatting later on, or have you kind of always squatted like through like younger ages, high school?
I mean, really good squatting and like proper squatting was like later on, like in my 30s, I would say. Yeah.
That's been the biggest game changer, I think, for me and for anybody I've ever trained. It's like if I can just teach them to be really great at the squat, you can build everything else off of it. That's why it's just so important. It's so hard. It's so hard to get somebody especially somebody who's say in their 30s or 40s, to see or understand the value in learning to perform a deep squat with load. Like that is such a challenging thing to do. It's so daunting to get somebody to try that to start, and then but once they develop it, it becomes part of their identity, and they have a point of pride around the squat, they'll tackle anything. There's not going to be much more that's a more difficult progression than starting a proper squat and like getting confident at it.
Well, it's just a good driver of everything, right? It's a pretty good driver of athleticism, or a good precursor to athleticism. It's a really good driver of strength, obviously. And I think the stealthy thing that people don't talk about much is what a good driver of mobility is. Because a loaded squat, if you're really getting like a deep loaded squat, I mean, you are getting a good amount of range of motion on a lot of different joints. And I think that can carry over to other things as well.
What do you want to see from our members this month? Like at the end of the month, like what type of outcomes do you want to see?
It's always for me, especially since, post-pandemic, we're getting a new crop of people who maybe aren't as experienced in training as we had seen in the past. And my thing is always number one, technique. I just feel like if you can optimize the technique, you're going to maximize the results. So weight on the bar ultimately becomes important, but that's actually kind of systematically easy. Once you have really good technique, really good command of the lifts, and really good understanding. Like layering strength is just like, it takes time, but it's actually not that complicated. Doing the things really well is where the majority of the effort should be for most people, particularly early on. So I would just like to see, with a challenging load, that is where breakdown tends to happen. And I'd like to see people resist breakdown in the early stages of challenging load. That would be a huge win for me.
It's so important for me too. And I think, following a 5-3-1 progression, it drops enough reps that people should be able to maintain good technique as long as they start from the right form. They start from the right technique. Going down to threes is going to be a lot more easy to execute than fives. One's going to be a lot more easy to execute than threes. And I really hope that everyone really internalizes the importance of the technique, and then that is the precursor. How much weight can you add on and maintain that perfect form? And hopefully prove to yourself that, hey, you're like quite capable. You can make this not only lift a lot of weight, but you can lift more weight than maybe you thought and still make it look good.
For sure. And as from a coaching standpoint, I have always found these to be very interesting, and it really reveals like what someone's tendencies are or what their strengths are, right? Like for somebody like me, like the difference between like a 3 rep max and a 1 rep max is like a very large percentage, like disproportionately large. I'm just way better at 1 rep.
But I want people to see that as they go.
You take someone like Jess, and she could do, for what she does for 1 rep, she could do like 95% of that for like 10, right? That's like the opposite of me. And I always like to see that in people, and it starts to kind of give you a picture of what their strengths are, what their capabilities are, and if they did want to get into something more performance-based, like what would really suit them. And there's a mindset to it, right? Like the heavy single, like gets me excited, like it gets my attention. A lot of people feel a heavy bar in their back and they get scared. It's like, that's when I start to get excited about training. So you get to kind of see like what their mentality is and what their approach is. And it just reveals a lot if you're going to, train them in the long term of what it is that they can work on, some mindset things, and really what would suit them in training. And that to me as a coach is like an exciting part of the process.
Yeah. Speaking of the mindset, talk to me a little bit about the scarcity mindset and the topic that you covered in the blog this week.
Yeah, so this blog was exciting because I feel like it resonated with a lot of people. I got a lot of feedback. I tend to get good feedback on the blog usually, and that really excites me always. But this week was like kind of a little bit statistically more than usual, which I liked. Because I think a lot of people were feeling the same thing that I was feeling, which basically revealed that I have a tendency to fall into a scarcity mindset pretty easily. And I brought this example up of this pair of sneakers that I have that are in my closet, and they've been in my closet for about 3 years. And sure, they're like kind of difficult to get sneakers in some ways, but really like they're gettable. There's nothing here is like, it's not like the Rosetta Stone or something that like you're never going to see again, right? But I think I can really fall into this mindset of, should I hold on to these? Should I save these? Is there a rainy day, the proverbial rainy day where like, oh, I'm going to need a new pair of sneakers and I can break these out. And I think that's just like me kidding myself. And I just can fall into this idea of like, I don't have enough. I need to conserve. And it's not that that's always bad, but when that predominates your life and you start approaching everything with that, I feel like it's very hard to get to the opposite end of that, which is this abundance mindset, which I think is what most people would strive for, right? Like most people want to feel a life of abundance. Like there's always new and bigger and more out there that's available to them that is within their reach. And that is something I think I'm actively working hard to kind of put in my mind. And it's very easy for me to fall back into this scarcity mindset. And I could certainly reveal more about why I think that is. But it's something that I'm trying to break out of. What do you think?
I think it drives everything. I had this really interesting conversation with a girl last night, a really experienced marathon runner, and she was telling me how she's just been struggling to, PR her marathon by like 5 minutes, right? Like for 10 years, she's had a 5-minute goal, and she just can't seem to crack it. And my advice to her was, what would happen if you started targeting like a 30-minute PR? Like, how would that change the way that you behave? How would that change your training? How would that change your mindset? Who would the people be that you would follow and model your actions after? And I think that translates to everything else. And I think that's the way you break through, the way you actually get to these targets. Because when you shoot small, you get small or you get nothing, right? And if you're worried about just being able to maintain or keep what you have, if you're thinking like, man, if I could like just lose 10 pounds, like don't shoot for just 10 pounds. Shoot for the best shape you could ever imagine. Shoot for the best shape you can see anybody else in a similar situation to you being in. See that it's possible for them. Imagine that that'd be possible for you if you can just break your beliefs that it's possible, learn the skills that they have, and then take on the character traits that they have in their lives. You can have so much. And I think a lot of times we see this with people in the gym. They come to us with really tiny goals, small goals. And we deliver a product that's very comprehensive. It's strength, it's conditioning, it's movement quality, it's athleticism, it's so much. And when combined, it delivers this product that all together synergistically like blows through the expectations that people can have. And when you're in an environment like this and you see all those other people like really going after it, really 55-year-olds like in the best shape of your life, you realize there's plenty of fitness out there. There's plenty of places that you can go with training that's way beyond anything that you ever imagined. And to me, I see it as like part of the same. Whether you want to make a lot of money, whether you want to be in really good shape, whatever you want, like shoot big. Realize the universe is big. Like we have a lot of control. We're not a tree. We can be anything we want if we do the things required to get there. But it starts with the mindset, right? Yeah. And knowing it's possible, it's available to you.
Yeah, and I think the big payoff to that is so much more than the goals, which is kind of that I've observed in people. Because, right, we talk to a lot of people, we see a lot of people, and obviously we're dealing with a lot of them in like a business sense. But you take the people who are like really like just tight with everything, like, oh, I'm afraid of losing my sessions, or this is gonna, and none of them, like, I understand that mindset, but it also like, you can see them being confined by these restraints of like, oh, what if I live? And then you see other people who are just like, it's going to be fine. Like there's abundance in the world for me. I'm going to approach this with joy and like kind of a real openness. And just the difference that you see between the one person and the other who like kind of approaches the world with this like kind of abundance view and the person who approaches the world in the scarcity view. Like I think everybody would want to be in the abundance lane. And I think it is available to them, but it really takes like a mindset shift. And the training and approaching the training that way, I think can, just like everything else, can kind of be a teacher of like, how do I take this training principle and approach it to, bigger picture in the rest of my life. And I think that's what I'm trying to do, like abundance in training, like aim big, and then aim big in life, aim big in business, aim big in your relationships, all those things. It's like, I think you just find a lot more joy and a lot more gratitude and just have a bigger and just a more experienced life that way.
Yeah, I think it's a great place for us to stop today. I'm Kyle Fields.
I'm Dan Trink.
And we're the co-owners of The Fort. And
we take this seriously.
We do what works. Until next time, peace.